Well, it's that time again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Freedom Network podcast. We are so glad that you are tuning in today. We have an incredible guest. J.D. Walker is with us today, and we'll talk more about his testimony and his music in just a minute. So thank you for joining us. Hope you are well. Well, going into the weekend, I hope that you have a light-hearted weekend this weekend, that you plug yourself into a local body, a local church body. Hey, maybe even a Global Vision Hub could be near you. You can check that out at gvfreedomnetwork.com. Again, that is gvfreedomnetwork.com. Well, hello, Landon. How are you, bud?
Well, hello.
Did I say Happy Friday today?
You didn't know. I was going to say that, but I just, yeah.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah, now it's a normal podcast.
Now it's a normal
Every
podcast.
Friday is happy, always.
Always.
And I don't know about you, but I'm so excited for our special guest today.
Oh, man.
We were talking just a little bit before the podcast because I've actually never officially met him before. I've never met you before.
Right.
And we're just talking a little bit about things that have been happening recently and his testimony.
Yeah,
and,
powerful, man.
oh, my goodness gracious.
Guys,
this is about to be good.
Yeah, hang on. You are in for a treat today. And so it's going to be really, really good.
Y'all
for
are
the
going to make
glory.
me tear up.
Yeah, JD's over here crying.
Who's cutting onions?
Cut.
You're cutting onions like you cut those avocados.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Right through my hand.
Oh, man, that's hilarious. Not funny, but funny, but
Yeah.
not funny.
Well,
Funny
just-
now.
Yeah, it's funny now.
Not then at the
it
time.
It wasn't funny last week. Super glue don't work.
Super glue. Did you really try that?
I did. But I use Gorilla Glue, and that stuff don't come off.
That's why your hand's taped up. It's not because the cut. It's because the Gorilla Glue.
Yeah, the
You
lady
didn't
in
want
the
to-
emergency room was like, "What is that?" It was all foam. She goes, I'm gonna have to soak your hand, and then she was trying to scrape it. She goes, "This is not coming off."
That is so funny.
I was dying,
Laughing or crying or both.
I was both until she stuck the needle in my hand.
Then the laughing stopped.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're on the mends for that. So that's just a note for you guys when you're cutting your avocados. Just don't do it. Buy the smashed up avocados.
Yeah, absolutely. Buy the smashed up ones. I
that's
recommend it.
That's
Or
hilarious.
just wait till they go soft, and then you're.
Wait until they go soft.
Yeah.
Good idea. Thank you so much for our cooking tips today and our prepping tips. Oh, man. Well, I know Landon usually asks how the Freedom Network is doing, so I'll just jump the gun.
You knew I was thinking that.
And answer the question. I knew we were going there next. But I really have a special prayer request that I want to share, to ask for all of you to please be praying. Pastor Greg and myself are leaving Sunday afternoon to fly to the Philippines, and it will be a very long trip. And to be honest, the area we're going is not the safest for Christian Americans. And so I just want to ask that you pray for Pastor Greg and that you pray for myself, that we'll have traveling mercies, that the Lord will keep us safe while we are there ministering. And it'll be kind of, with all the travel that is included in this trip, it's going to be kind of like an in and out trip. We'll get there, be there only a Filipino time, probably just a couple of days, do what we're going there to do. We're going to preach, and then also minister to about 100 different pastors and their congregations who are interested in coming under the Freedom Network umbrella, the Global Vision umbrella. And so we got to meet with those pastors and kind of just check things out and what the Lord's doing there, and then, of course, preach ourselves. And so we've had multiple people living down there in that area that have begged us actually not to come to that specific area, not because they don't want us there, but because of the safety there. But you know what? The Lord goes before us, and we really trust that the Lord will protect us while we're there. But I do want to ask for the prayers of our listeners. Again, we leave on Sunday afternoon, and then we will come back, Lord willing, on Thursday evening sometime. And so just pray for that trip. We greatly appreciate it. The Freedom Network is doing well. We're continuing to add hubs across the country, and now, of course, down in the Philippines, Lord willing. And so there's a lot going on, and so we could always appreciate your prayers, but specifically pray for this upcoming trip. Landon, I wish you could go with me on this one, man.
I would. Can I go with you on this one?
You're a UFC fighter, man. Look, you look.
Can I fit in a suitcase? Like, can you buy a bulky suitcase and I can fit in it?
On that note, Pastor texted me on that, and he was like, on our trip, just don't bring any luggage. And I was like, what? He was like, other than a check-in bag, like, in other words, don't do any checked luggage.
Okay.
So I was like, wow, that's interesting. So I've never taken a foreign trip without like a full-blown suitcase. So it'll be fun.
Why? Like, would people like try to steal it or mess with it? Or?
Possibly that, and then just we're flying from Nashville to Denver, Colorado, from Denver to San Francisco, and then from San Francisco to the Philippines. And so because we're doing so many flights, and the flights are like one after the other, like we don't have a long layover, so the luggage to all those, there's a greater chance that our luggage will be lost, and not get there anyway. So just take a backpack, man. It'll be good.
Yeah. Sure. I wish I could go with you. That'd be fun. But honestly, it kind of reminds me of the story of Gideon a little bit, because y'all two going out, and all these people like don't like you, all this stuff. But Gideon just had like 300 men against these massive armies, but he wasn't fearful.
Yeah, he wasn't.
He went out. So like that's kind of what y'all are.
Yeah, you would be our Gideon, but you're not going, so it's okay.
It's okay. The Lord's still with y'all.
Gideon stays home on this trip, unfortunately.
Yeah, take a carry-on and a very big backpack. You'll be good.
JD's on our security team as well. It'd be great to have him go. Maybe next time. It'll be great. But anyway, yeah, please pray for that. And speaking of JD, let's get to him. You have a very, very, very powerful testimony. I would say that you've been through probably a lot more loss, maybe, and grief than most people listening to this podcast. And I just want you to take some time to share your testimony a little bit in more detail of what you summarized for me before the podcast, and just be open, vulnerable, honest to our listeners, and then I'm going to ask you some specific questions after your testimony on how to further help those who are listening, and then of course we're going to get to your music, which is extremely powerful. So please, whatever you do, this is not a podcast you're going to want to click in and out of. Take a listen to what God is doing through the life of J.D. Walker. Go ahead, my friend, share with us some.
Well, I came from a broken home. I call her my biological egg donor. She walked out on my dad and my brother and sisters and I when I was 5, and didn't see her again. Wow. And my dad got remarried about 4 years later, and then that's the only mom I ever knew, and she ended up adopting me. So she adopted all 3 of us. Wow. So, but I had great childhood, but a lot of my struggles started when I was right out of high school. I rode motocross and dirt bikes and trails, and every weekend we were, as kids, we were fishing, hunting, camping, doing whatever. But right after high school, I was friends with this guy from 5 years old, all through kindergarten, all through junior high, high school, and we were best friends. And we decided to go down to my cousin's lake cabin for the weekend, and we got down there that Friday afternoon and had a barbecue, and my cousins were, fixing things up, and it was the weekend before the 4th of July. So, everybody was out in the country and right on the Osage River, and then they had a lake next to it. So, was driving home from the marina and back to the cabin and heard a couple loud pops, and he had been shot. And the truck floorboarded, and we hit a tree at 60 and busted my nose up and my face up. I reached over to grab the wheel to keep from going off a ravine, and right as I did, we hit this tree. And I didn't know what had happened at first, but I ended up making my way out and opened up the truck, got around the driver's side door and got it pried open. He just had his head leaned back. I just thought he was knocked out. But the truck was sparking, and it was I thought it was going to, blow up or catch on fire. So I pulled him out of the truck, drug him away about 50 feet, started CPR, and he ended up dying in my arms, and then I realized he'd been shot. So yeah, I spent that was a lot of tragedy right there, turmoil, and it took me a while to process it. I didn't talk for a while. Just, kind of in shock. And then Dad finally took me to a Christian counselor, and he got me to open up. And then, so a year later, I testified in a murder trial, and the guy got sentenced to 10 years in prison.
10?
10. He got 10 years second-degree murder. And it was, they based it off the fact that his blood alcohol content was through the roof, and he was on drugs, and he didn't know what he was doing. So that's why they nailed him on second degree, but he only served 10. He got out after 6 on parole, was ordered not to have any contact with me, made contact with me, and I was at a gas station, and he approached me. And he grabbed a hold of me, and I grabbed a hold of him. We started swinging at each other in the parking lot, and the sheriff pulled in, just out of the blue. And he lied to the sheriff, and I told the sheriff who he was, and he got sent back to prison. Had to do another 4 years, serve out the remainder of his sentence. I never heard from him again. Then I found out in 2016 he died of a heart attack.
Wow.
So
what a story. But that's a lot right there in itself.
Yeah.
That you have faced, but it didn't stop there.
No, it didn't. It several years went by, and met the woman I've soon married. We was together 4.5 years. Got married, and then a month and a half after we got married, found out she had cancer, and she had 2 girls, and they were 10 and 12 when we met, 16 and 18 when she passed away, and then she passed away from the cancer, and the girls stayed with me for I don't know, 6 or 8 months, and before they left, and then I decided I'm going to move away, move on, get out of the country, and I had horses, and I wanted to move closer to them, and then so I rented the house to my brother, and then 10 months later, after she passed away, he decided to commit suicide, and he did it in my house, and my dad was the one that found him.
And this was who?
That was my brother.
Your brother.
My biological brother.
So you lose your mom. Your wife, excuse me. You lose your best friend to murder. You lose your wife, who you had only been with for how many years?
We was together 4.5.
4.5 years, to cancer. And how old was she at the time?
I was 27 and she was 35.
Wow.
So
you lost your wife, and then just a few months later, in your own home, your brother took his life.
Yep.
How in the world does someone go through that much loss and tragedy, and you're able to still talk about it today? I mean, of course.
I mean, it wasn't easy, and he was into a lot of, I mean, I'd been around Deliverance. Grew up in Pentecostal Assembly of God churches, so I'd seen it before, but it wasn't until, I was the investigator in me got going. I'm going, okay, there's 3 beer bottles on the table. There's a 6-pack in the fridge. But there's 4 bottles there. Where'd the extra bottle come from? I'm going, somebody, and the back door was standing wide open. Wow. So I thought somebody was either there when he did it, or they was there and found him and then left. Police never scrubbed. He set my dad up to find him. And so I was very angry about it. So when I started investigating, we started going through things. My other brother and I was there cleaning the house out. And the phone bill came. And I opened it up, and it was $1,900 home phone bill. He'd been calling Ireland. And so I traced the number, and he'd been talking to a witch, a full-blown witch in Ireland. So he was really heavily into witchcraft. So I find this micro cassette tape, and I started listening to it, and he had tried doing a spell on this girl he was seeing while I was in the house. And this lady, this witch he was talking to, she said, I'm detecting someone's in the home, and there's a very powerful force. She wouldn't say God, but she kept saying a higher power that's surrounding him, and he's protected. Nothing you do is going to work until he's out of that home. And she was talking, he goes, yeah, that's my brother. And she goes, he just lost someone really close to him, a wife maybe, or a girlfriend. And he goes, yeah, it was his wife. And he's not feeding her no info. She's just telling him. And he was very, very heavily into witchcraft. And I was like, okay, there it is.
Wow.
It wasn't him. It was the demons in him that got him.
That is crazy.
So yeah, it was, it was so crazy because it wasn't until 10 or 12 years later, it was like he was very jealous of my other brother and I because we had somebody and we were, we had a spouse and we were married, and he wanted that so bad, but he just wanted it so quick. It freaked girls out. I mean, 2 weeks he's saying he loves them, boom, they're gone.
Yeah.
So, but it was so weird because And I usually, when I go into churches and I'm talking about my testimony, I go into a little bit of it. He literally tried putting a spell on me, and I didn't realize it until I went through deliverance that I had this spirit of witchcraft on him. Every girl I dated, just maybe go out with, they would marry the next guy they met.
Wow.
So my friends started nicknaming me Good Luck Chuck off that movie. And because every girl I dated then married the next guy they met. And it happened all with two. And I did get remarried after my wife passed away, but ended up getting it annulled because we were, I think, at that time, looking back, I loved to be married. I loved that life, and I wanted it so bad. And I just picked the wrong woman. But we was spiritually unevenly yoked, and we just couldn't get along. And I'm like, what did I do? So we just got it annulled and been done. Yeah. And it was up until my dad passed away. I finally, made amends with her, and I said, look, I wasn't innocent back then.
Sure.
I was going through a lot. I wasn't walking with the Lord when I done that. So if I had done anything, to hurt you or whatever, I do apologize. And she really, that really meant a lot to her.
Wow.
And she's like, you know what? I wasn't innocent either. So, and she said, you weren't ready. And she said, and I think I knew that.
So you went through a period of life after all this loss where you kind of turned to the world and you kind of turned to the culture, trying to cope with all that you had been through. Tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
So I got into bull riding and martial arts, and I started working on and off as a professional bodyguard, and that part kind of really stuck. But so I was working around and behind the scenes in country music, and I was still writing songs, but nothing had ever really been, done or went anywhere. And a couple of the artists that I worked for found out I was a songwriter and brought me to Nashville.
So that's an interesting story there. So you get to Nashville, you're writing music, you're bodyguard for some of the stars and some different things, and you were 100% at this particular time writing strictly country music, performing country music. And then the Lord started getting a hold of your heart. And I believe you were at one of our deliverance services here, maybe working even security at the service. And then Pastor Ty gets up and says a few things, and the Holy Spirit uses that to wreck you.
Yep.
Tell me about that night, and tell us what the Lord did in your life and how that forever changed you.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I'd always felt like God was saying, I didn't take you through all this for you. You got a story, you need to be telling it. I don't want to do that. I want to do country. Okay. And, he let me go so far. And I had some success overseas and with the first EP and, 6 songs and wrote 5 of the 6 on it. And
you were like number 1 in, what was the country that you were?
UK.
In the UK?
Yeah, I was top 10 in UK. I got a top 10 songwriting award for the song I wrote for my wife, Too Far From Heaven. Got a top 10 award in the UK for that song.
Wow.
Because it was, I think it stayed on the charts. It was in the top 50 for 87 weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, unfortunately, it's like streaming. They don't pay worth a crud either. But it was, it was nice to be recognized. And we got ready to start a big UK tour, and then COVID happened and knocked it out. So.
Gotcha. So going back to that night, so you actually had written a whole country album that you had not produced at this point. I'm talking about the Deliverance point.
Yeah,
God didn't let you release that particular album.
No, I released the Too Far From Heaven EP.
Yeah.
That was 6 tracks. We did release that in 2016, and then I got in. I recorded 3 songs off this new record.
The new record.
And then we went in and we started recording tracks, and I hadn't recorded another vocals yet at all. We had Deeper Than Blood done and My Last Prayer done, and that was it.
That was it. And so you're here at this deliverance service. Pastor Ty gets up. What did she say, and how did the Holy Spirit use that to forever change you?
Well, we're after the deliverance service. I'm working security.
Sure.
And this was back when we had the cedar chips.
Yeah.
And we didn't know, we could bind them by the power of the Holy Spirit. But these people, we were having to wrestle some of these people, because the demons in them were just. I mean, it was, it was crazy. So it was after that, she was doing the healing portion, and she gets up and she says, And Jesse with Church Leaders wrote about this in an article that they released on the 26th. And he said, she said, you know, I really feel like there's somebody in here, and you've been to hell and back, and you need to be telling your story, and you're not doing it. And I'm thinking, she ain't talking about me. And she says, and you know, the Lord's telling me you need to be doing this. And I'm going, because you got a testimony. And I go, nah, she ain't talking about me. And she goes, and I feel like you should be doing it with music. I went, okay, now she is talking about me. She says, I want you to come up here and let me pray for you. So I went up forward, and she's laying people out, you know, power of the Holy Spirit's laying people out. So I got to helping and catching them. I didn't have her pray for me. The following week, go through the deliverance. She's up, you know, praying for people again. She repeats the same exact thing. This time the Lord's like, move. So I went forward, got to helping people, and he literally said, I heard him say, move. That's not where you're here. Mm-hmm. And
wow.
She says, I know you're here. I feel it. I feel it. I know you're here. And she's looking around, and I'm almost right in front of her. And I step out from behind this lady. I remember there's this lady standing in front of me because I was ready to help catch, it was a gentleman. I was ready to help catch him.
Sure.
And I moved out of the way, and one of the guys stepped in, and she goes, there you are. Come here. And I took 2 steps forward, and she put the mic behind her back, and she says, you know what you're supposed to be doing, right? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you're almost ready. She laid hands on me, and the Holy Spirit laid me out.
Wow.
I woke up the next day, called my producer. I said, what's your schedule like? He said, man, I'm wide open. Why? And we had already cut the tracks for a few of the songs. I said, I'm gonna finish this record, this Christian country album. And he's like, hallelujah, praise Jesus.
Yeah.
So within a week, we went in and I cut the vocals, and I was done. The album was finished.
That's awesome. And so the name of that album is
Deeper Than Blood.
That's right, Deeper Than Blood. An incredible song too, by the way. And so Deeper Than Blood. And I remember that your track came out, and then Pastor Greg, it was so funny to me. It's the power of social media. Mm-hmm. It's really amazing how much influence and what goes in behind the words of someone who has a large following. And
right.
So I remember that Sunday, he was like, you know what, I'm going to do something I've never done, kind of.
Yeah.
Right. And he gets up and he promotes, you know, he mentioned your album.
Right.
And it went from what?
It wasn't even on the charts.
It wasn't even on the charts
at all. And it went to number 3.
Number 3.
And within an hour and a half, by the time he was done with baptisms, it was at number 1.
Number 1 on the charts.
I was like, you got it. And it stayed there.
Yeah,
everybody's like, "You got to be kidding me!"
It stayed there. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, so it was there like 2.5 days, and then, and it was crazy because Monday it fell to number 4, and it jumped back to number 1.
Yeah.
And just stayed there.
That's awesome.
And everybody's like, and what's so weird about that is I didn't allow this album to be streamed. It wasn't on Spotify. It wasn't on Apple Music. It was strictly iTunes and sold through my website. That was it.
Wow.
That's the only way they could get it. So.
Wow.
You know, yeah, there you say, like, power of social media and the power of the Lord, boom.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And that's just gained so much attention. So it's like, you know, I was talking to this reporter, and I was like, man, you know, I kind of wish he had mentioned him. And he says, well, he knows how I work, and here's why I didn't. You know,
yeah,
it's because you want other articles to pick this up.
Yeah,
and he goes, you know, I kind of wanted to focus on the testimony of how Pastor Ty was involved and everything else, because that's controversial enough.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Within the church body, because, you know, there's still a lot of people who don't believe, a woman should be preaching and that sort of thing. And so he's like, you know, he wanted to focus on that. So when I was at NRB, everybody's like, how'd your album go number 1 with no streaming? I was like, well, you want to know, you're going to have to interview me just for me to tell you. So I was on JCCO TV, TLN Media, and all that, and I get on there, and I'm like, well, it's power of social media, and when you have a pastor who believes in you and has an amazing platform, it takes off, and they're like, wait, what?
That was hilarious, man. I thought that was so awesome. And so, is it still? You still can't find it on Apple Music or on Spotify, or you can now? No, you still can't.
No. And matter of fact, I mean, I was just talking to a promoter. I was telling Landon, I was talking to a promoter this morning on a meeting, and he was like, "That's never been done." No independent, no artist has done that lately at all. And I'm like, no, not since the '80s.
You had an independent
You know,
artist, yeah.
and I did it because people said I couldn't do it, and I'm just like, that to me, that I thank the Lord for it, and I thank Pastor Greg for promoting it, and
Yeah.
the church has gotten behind me and
Sure.
everything else, and so yeah, it's been amazing. I mean,
That's incredible. So tell me a little bit about. So that goes to number one. You sell a lot of those albums. Now, for somebody who is interested in, I'm telling you, his songs are very, very, very good, and they're very much in depth. They're just good theologically, biblical based Christian country songs. And for those of you who are interested in that genre in Christian country, how can they find your
so
album?
they can find it on Apple or iTunes under JD Walker Music, or they can get it on my website.
Gotcha.
At jdwalkermusic.com.
All right, so iTunes, JD Walker Music, and then the website, jdwalkermusic.com. And check it out. It's amazing how the Lord has used you. And do you have some concert dates now set up, right? Aren't you going to some different places?
So I'm going to Dallas tomorrow.
Tomorrow, you're going to Dallas,
yeah,
right?
I'm doing a meeting there for a meeting to get set up on. I'm not going to say the network, but it's a pretty big Christian network. So I'm doing a meeting for that tomorrow, and then Saturday I'm pretty good friends with John Party, and been known him for years, and so one of my good friends, him and his daughter's crazy about him.
Yes, I love their videos.
So
yeah.
so
they do it together.
So we're going to. One of my friends' daughter's crazy about him, so we've been planning since December to set up backstage for her to meet him. So
that's cool.
I'm gonna do that, and then I got a date coming up, and July date's canceled in Moorhead because I was opening up for Colt Ford, and that got canceled. But I got some dates coming up. I haven't announced them on my website yet, but in Southern Georgia, I've got a couple dates coming up. And
awesome.
Working on one with San Antonio, and I'm working on Sunrise Festival in Virginia Beach.
Wow, awesome.
So
the Lord's opening up some doors. Now, does John know about your... I'm sorry, didn't mean to hit my head there on the microphone. Does John know about what's going on with your Christian country album and things like that?
He does. Yeah, I mean, awesome. And we haven't talked too much lately because he's been on tour overseas, but it's going to be good, to see him and the band members that I haven't seen in a long time, and just get to spend time with him for the show. And
that'll be really cool.
So my friend's little girl can meet him, and
that's good.
So
that'll be fun.
So I was like, we've been planning it for a while, and so that's in Oklahoma. So, and I'm gonna meet with a pastor out there on Saturday to I think his church is outside Oklahoma City.
Nice.
He's gonna be in Lake Texoma. So I'm going to meet with him Saturday.
That's awesome.
Talk to him about performing at his church. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's beautiful about this is JD doesn't just go and play and sing, although he does both beautifully, but he shares his testimony more in depth as well, and interweaves that his testimony through his songs, and it's just a really, really powerful. And so, man, that's awesome. I'm so glad for all that the Lord's done in your life. He has brought you through so much.
Yeah, he has.
And he has brought you so far, and you've got to the point where you've taken your hands off of it.
Yeah.
And said, Lord, just use me your way.
Yeah, it had to get to the point to where, when Pastor Greg and I finally met and talked, he said, he struck me because he said, well, you weren't ready then, you're ready now. And I didn't know what he meant by that. And finally the Lord was like, well, I'll tell you what he meant by it. I didn't even have to ask him, It's like, I wasn't going to let any fame go to my head.
Yeah, of course.
He's still going to keep me humble and
absolutely
and grounded, And I tell people the reason why this album took so long is because 3 or 4 of these songs that I found, they fell in my lap. And the guy that pitched 3 from The Devil Across Your Knees, the Floor, and There He Is to me, he pitched them to me at a birthday party and then died a month later before he even ever got them to me.
Wow.
And it just so happened one of my good friends was singing on the demo. So when Rick Tiger passed away, this guy calls my friend Craig and goes, hey, you're singing the demos on some of these Rick Tiger songs. I want to send them to you. And he goes, well, I'm staying at JD, just send them here. And so when we got them a few days later, I already knew the song, so we put the CD player in my Yukon and started playing it. Well, I started rattling the lyrics off, and Craig goes, how do you know these songs? And I said, these are the songs Rick pitched me before he passed away. And
wow.
Craig got goosebumps, and he's like, brother, you take this for what it's worth, but this is God right here, and if you don't cut these, you're an idiot. And so I finally reached out to his wife, and she said, I remember exactly who you are. She said, really, Rick really believed in you. And she said, you just take whatever whatever songs you want to hit and cut it, and we'll work them out later. And so when I sent her the track, she was like, wow.
That's awesome.
She's like, so a lot of these songs that I weave in that are from this album, I weave into my testimony.
Yeah.
Because they pertain to my journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like my last prayer, I mean, not many people know this, but I mean, this October to be 9 years opioid free.
Wow.
So,
praise the Lord.
I use that. I use the song "My Last Prayer" as that. Because I was laying on the kitchen floor and I could have very well died, and it wasn't for my boxer Trip, who I lost last October, licking my face and barking and scratching at me. I don't know if I'd have woke up. And
wow.
And I remember I was out in the yard with him, and I was just like, started bawling. I was like, good Lord, you just use this dog to save me. And I went in, and I remember hitting my knees, and I said, you get this monkey off this demon off. I've said monkey at the time, but now I know it was a demon. So you get this off me, and I'll never go back to it.
And you didn't?
No, and I didn't.
Praise the Lord.
And so, I use that, My Last Prayer is that song. My buddy Craig wrote it.
So let me talk for a second, and I say this with a lot of guests. A common question that I always ask, there are people every week who listen to our podcast who are struggling, right? Maybe they just lost a loved one. Maybe their spouse just received a terrible diagnosis. Maybe someone's out there struggling financially. What do you do? What kind of hope can you give them for those who are listening who are really going through a difficult time?
Man, I tell them, draw close to the Lord, because here's one thing I learned in my struggles. Out of all of those years, I thought I was walking down these very, very dark and lonely roads. You're never alone.
That's the truth.
Because all you got to do is really look beside you, and the Lord's right there. And he might be in front of you. But it don't matter. I don't care what road you're going down, whether it's the good road or the bad road. It's going to lead back to him one way or another. He's going to pull you back. But if you really, really look, he's right there. And that's why I love that song with my album, There He Is. Because anywhere it's like it starts out, when I'm sitting at the table reading from my Bible, there he is. When I lay awake at night and I can't see the light, there he is. Because he's right there. So just draw close to him. And you're going to, the further you go, you're going to realize he pulled you through.
That's so good.
And he because he makes the way for us. He clears the path. He parts the waters, to get through it. So I just tell him, just draw close to him, because you can go down the road, you can party, you can drink, you can raise 10 times a Cain in hell, whatever you want to call it, but it's going to lead back to him eventually. If you let it, because there's only the alternative, and that's destruction. So don't let the devil win. Draw close to the Lord, and he'll see you through it.
That's awesome. It reminds me of James chapter 4 verse 8. James chapter 4 verse 7 talks about submitting yourself to the Lord, resisting the devil, and he will flee from you. And then verse 8 says, James chapter 4 verse 8, draw nigh to God. Draw close to God, and he will draw nigh to you. As you take a step towards him, he takes a step towards you. And so wherever you're at on your journey right now, we want to encourage you just to take that step, just one step closer to Jesus, and he will be right there taking a step towards you. I love 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 7, casting all of our cares, all of our anxieties, all of our burdens, casting all of our cares on him, for he cares for us. What a good God we serve. And God is definitely, even in spite of all the loss and the grief and the misunderstanding, and even through your backsliding through that process, so good to you to bring you to where you're at today.
Yeah, well, and it was like Pastor Greg last night. I mean, that message really hit me,
It's really good.
And because I spent so many years, and it was like, all you had to do is like, you know what, Lord, I'm sorry I was mad at you. Because I
Yeah.
spent many, many years, I loved him, but I was mad at him. Why did you do this? Why did you take me through this? You know? And I remember when my wife passed away, I had my dad clear the room, and it was the biggest funeral I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, my uncle even said, man, I've been police officer shot in the line of duty. I'd never seen a funeral that's big. And everybody was there. And I remember I had my dad clear the room, and I had to go take her jewelry off. And I looked at him, and he said, son, and he said, you know what? We'll sit here as long as you want. We'll make them wait. And I just looked at him and I said, you remember when Carrie got killed and I asked you why I was going through this? And he's like, yeah. I told you I didn't know, son. Looked at him and I said, now I know. I got up and walked off and took her jewelry off. And my dad went, that was the day I realized my youngest, my boy, because you're still the baby, grew up. But that's when I realized that's why the Lord took me through that, was to prepare me for that. And then that prepared me for my brother. Because my dad said after my brother passed away that I was the glue that held the family together.
Wow.
He was like, you know, because everybody was fighting. And I just walked in one day. I was like, I never talked back to my dad. I looked at him one day. I said, shut up. Y'all, everybody shut up. This is what the devil wants. He wants us to fight and argue and, you know.
So division and chaos.
Yeah, and I said, and he's doing it, and you're letting him, so just stop. So, but you know, so just like I said, draw close to God, keep close to Him. You know, read the Bible, and stay in the Word.
That's good advice right there from J.D. Walker. Or just wanted to remind you, I encourage you to listen to some of his songs. All of them are great. And you can do that again on iTunes. J.D. Walker Music on iTunes, as well on his website, jdwalkermusic.com. #1 recording artist in Christian country for weeks, and his songs are so powerful. Why don't you go check them out? And we love you, my brother. We honor you, man of God. And we are so thankful for all the Lord has done for you and through you.
Yeah,
and
love
this
y'all
is
too,
just the
and
beginning.
Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I
man.
love it.
Absolutely. It's just the beginning. Well, everyone, that is a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you so much for your prayers. We look forward to updating you. I'll be posting online some things from the Philippines, Lord willing, on the Global Vision Freedom Network page. So stay tuned to that. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We have Scott and Callie Lathrop, our Deliverance ministry team, next week on the podcast. We hope that you enjoy that. We look forward to that as well. So God bless you. Thank you so much. Hope you go off into this weekend with a full heart of the goodness of the Lord. Don't forget to find a local assembly, a local church near you. Perhaps you have a Freedom Network hub, Global Vision hub near you. You can go to gvfreedomnetwork.com and find that. Again, that is at gvfreedomnetwork.com. God bless.